Well, is cardio really needed for fat loss? That's the big question that a lot of us still don't really understand. And I want to give you guys a 15-year experience in the industry, plus a lot of backed up science and interviews with a lot of colleagues that I've had to help give you guys the answer today. So, if you don't know who I am, my name is 𝔬𝕝𝕝𝕝. I've been featured in places like Inside Fitness, T Nation, Elite Fitness, and I also have my own news segment with ABC News. And I love just sharing knowledge because I've owned a gym, I've now coached a lot of people, and the thing is I know what works. But you might be here trying to ask yourself, Mike, really, do we need cardio? Well, the short answer is yes. The long answer is, well, it depends. The thing is, when you start thinking about research that backs this up, we can date back to what we call the energy compensation model. This actually was a great study done that came out to show that cardiovascular work can lead to a compensatory method later in the day. So we all think, right? Oh, you're doing cardio, you're burning calories. And the more intense the cardio gets, the more calories you burn. Well, this study then came to find that as you start doing more intense cardio, yes, you might have a slightly higher EPOC, meaning that the more intense the cardio, the more intense that afterburn is. But in the grand scheme of things, in the course throughout the day, the total calories burned, that EPOC is very modest, if anything. So what really does matter when you're doing cardiovascular work? Well, they started seeing that the more intense that people got with their cardio, the kind of more that they compensated later in the day, maybe by eating more because, oh, I burn more calories, I can eat more food, or by simple things, by like not using your hands when you're talking, or not getting off the couch to go get the mail, or not cleaning your floors after you spill coffee all over the place. Things happen, and actually, some of the interviews I've even had with bodybuilders or those that were physique competitors, the more cardio they did, you'll notice the trend that they would always tell me their houses became more messy because they stopped moving as much. And that's the grand scheme things of how that compensatory method works. The more intense work you do, the less that your body wants to move throughout the day. It's just a known fact, and how science has backed this up. Now, we all know then what happened is the news took this into a huge deal. Oh my gosh, you don't need cardio because it doesn't work. You don't need to do this, you don't need to do that. And I will tell you now that your body needs cardiovascular work for heart health, for longevity, for helping you even burn calories. And it can even be beneficial for fat loss phases. But is it needed? No, because we now want to start comparing, and they've done research studies comparing steady state cardio versus high intense cardio. What happens? Well, a great one done by James Steele and many colleagues found that there was not any real significant difference when comparing steady state like something like maybe elliptical work, spinning, cycling, and just basic aerobic work compared to the more intense interval stuff. You know, the stuff you see influencers doing on TV with crazy start stuff with dumbbells and CrossFit and the sprints and all this stuff. Well, at the end of the day, in the time duration that you're doing these things, is the HIIT burning more calories? Sure. But in the grand scheme of this study, what has shown is that when the things are equated over all the board, that actually the fat loss is near the same, and basically it just models that it doesn't matter your modality, it's the one that you choose that's gonna be the most, what I always say, your ability to be consistent with. So if you're one that loves doing the elliptical while watching HGTV, then do that. If you're one that loves the challenge of doing some hard stuff, like maybe some burpees and some farmer's carries and some hill sprints, then do that. It's what you can find that's gonna give you the best result that you're consistent with. But when they did the research, now there is a big time constraint. That's the big difference with steady state versus what we call HIIT training. The more that you're doing of steady state is actually, say you might need in 60 minutes, the steady state calorie burn is 500 calories. If you were to do HIIT for 60 minutes, you might burn maybe 750 calories. But like we both said earlier in this actual presentation, is that that compensatory method then comes into play. Those that did that 750 hard workout for 60 minutes are compensating throughout the rest of the day. Whereas those that did the steady state, they're still moving and grooving throughout the rest of their day. So at the end of the day, it's doing what you find that can work best. And that's why now let's talk about advantages and disadvantages. So those of you that love your steady state, like the elliptical, maybe you're doing some simple jogging, some spinning, these things are very less wear and tear on the body. They're more joint friendly. They're actually more muscle sparing because you're not wasting a lot of time getting through increasing your body's ability to be more thermic, which often does tend to eat at muscle when you're doing this for long bouts of time. So that sweet spot is 30 to 45 minutes, steady state cardio, very low impact, and it's also something that most people can say that they can honestly just sustain. Now, if you're like a rare bird like me, I'm more of like, I like challenges, right? So I'm more of the guy that, you know what, when I do hard things, I feel more accomplished. So me watching HGTV while doing the elliptical doesn't make me feel manly, right? So I'm gonna be doing more types of cardio that's gonna help me feel like a man, whether it's doing some carries, whether it's doing some hill sprints, whether it's doing some more intense things that are costing me a lot less time as well, because I'm a busy dad, I don't have a lot of time. So what gets people into trouble is doing those types of things all the time, every day on low calorie diets without carbohydrates. So you fuel properly, you fit these workouts in shorter time constraints, and they can be just as beneficial as spending longer time on that elliptical. So it's more of a personal preference. When I ask a lot of different bodybuilders, they're in that state of mind where they gotta do what's less stressful on their body, because dieting itself does come out of stress, which then brings me to my next point. When they've done the research, and they have a chart based on what does increase fat loss the most. At the very bottom, you'll see is cardiovascular work, slow steady state cardio, interval training, what you see at the top. When you combine these things with proper diet, sleep, exercise, and actually starting to do things like walking and aerobic work. So when you combine these things together, your life becomes better, fat loss becomes easier. So when I say about the easiest way to lose fat, it depends, because you've got to have the right places and pull the right levers at the right time to get the best result. There's no one fits answer for this, because it can be what you most likely can be consistent with at the end of the day. And when I interview a lot of people and a lot of bodybuilders, the bodybuilder crowd loves doing more steady state because, like I said, they're on low calorie diets. They're already not sleeping well. They're training more intently. So their body can't handle a lot more stress. So they go that less stress route with the steady state cardio and walking, which we both know is easier on the body. Another benefit of walking is that it's going to be oxidating more fat as fuel. Another benefit. Do you need to walk a lot more? Sure, but the point of it is that you're also teaching your body to use fat as fuel. That's an important part of the process, because it's kind of like practicing for your sport. Say you are a soccer player and you're a goalie. You're not going to go to practice and be practicing as a forward, right? You got to practice what you're good at. So if you want your body to get good at burning fat, you got to utilize the things that oxidize it the best, which is going to be your basic walking. So if you don't have a more labor-intensive job, like construction workers or things that have to be moving all the time, then you might find it better for you to be trying to aim to get at least 10,000 steps a day and work on your cardiovascular, okay? So at the end of the day, how I cycle my training for most men is we find what works for them consistently, but I love giving them a little bit of what we call the side dish. Your cardio is your side dish. Your lifting is what creates more thermic activity within the body to help retain muscle mass. That's why it becomes more important, because the more muscle you have, the more calories you have burning, and you're also more thermic. So that's a win-win, and that's what you want. So when you're improving that side dish, you give them a little bit of what you want, right? I love giving them some steady state, and then as I progress them through their course of their programs, we work them into some different modalities, whether it's some interval training or some different types of things like GPP work, where they're doing preparedness work, carrying things. And that's what I love doing. So if you're curious on how I get my guys so lean, like some of my clients have lost 40 pounds in 3 months, or some that's lost 60 pounds in 6 months, the ones that truly get the best results understand the benefit of cardio, but don't treat it as something that needs to be neglected entirely. So hopefully this helps. Make sure you like, subscribe to my channel, and stay tuned for an awesome opportunity that you're gonna get to be able to join a community of guys that just truly love the whole inside aspect of health in general. So God bless. Hopefully this helps.